Hey, it's episode 773 of today's Antidote. Welcome. If you're new, appreciate having you. If you've been coming here for a long time, you know kind of how we roll. Today, we're going to talk about pivoting on your pathway and the challenges. Now, I struggled yesterday. If you watched yesterday, I struggled because I was coming up with the challenges. And there's one huge challenge that I see to pivoting, and that's all going to be part of our discussion coming up next on today's Antidote.
Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Hey, Tom. Good morning.
Morning, Bob. How are you today?
I'm good, and I just realized that I said wear red tomorrow, and you did that, and I did not. Drop the ball. So
and
sorry.
You think I don't listen to you?
Yeah. Apologies to you and everyone who wore red and was expecting me to wear red.
Yes. And I thought about putting a little, I thought about it too late. Putting a little Happy Valentine's Day on the intro
little
slide.
heart.
Yeah, and I forgot.
Yeah, well, that's all right.
Yeah, I was too busy picking out the red that I was going to wear. That took time away from it.
Well, it's funny because red is a polarizing color in my life. At one point, I was told red was a really good color on me, and at another point, I was told it was not.
Oh, I bet that drove you into a tizzy, didn't it?
It even does as I speak of it this morning.
We definitely need to work on the idea of feedback and challenges of judgment.
Sounds like the month of March is wide open for that one.
Yes, indeed. And it's interesting because, so I can see Bob while the intro is going on. There's like a little screen at the bottom that we can see each other. And it's always fascinating to me how he reacts when he does the intro. And he was shaking his head today. And I'm like, oh, good heavens, would you stop judging things and just take action? So it's always interesting.
Am I dark too?
Are you dark?
Like,
am I dark as well? Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm trying to figure out. I'm in a different location today. The bunker is on the move, and it doesn't matter. I'm staying here. It's more comfortable.
Wait a minute. Did you just say it doesn't matter?
It really doesn't. Except if I watch the replay, it drives me crazy to see how clean your screen looks and how unclean mine is. As I judge yet more.
Hello.
Hey, folks. Welcome to episode 773 or 71, whatever it was. It's Judgment Tuesday. And that's what
I was in full force.
Judgment Tuesday.
All right. We better get started.
Come on and tell us how you're judging yourself. I'm Bob. Tom will be our master of ceremonies. Oh, we have a call here from...
I'm not sure we would need any calls. Our show would run very long just on dealing with your judgment and the fact that you've now run your hand through your hair twice. So you're clearly uncomfortable, so it's time to move forward. All right, everyone. Good morning and welcome. This is not Call In to Erase Your Judgment show. This is today's Antidote, our daily broadcast and podcast, where we have a conversation around a topic each week. And this week's topic, as Bob mentioned in the opening, is pathway pivoting. Today, we're going to talk about the challenges, as he discussed. And as we go through that conversation, if you have any thoughts or ideas that you would like to share, please feel free to put them in the comments, because we know it'll add value to our show and help.
Speaking of comments, Tom, I'm going to jump in. Edward says, good morning. Good to have you, Edward. Always love to see you in the morning.
Yes. I got to remember where I was. Because we know that any comment that you make will add value to our show. And at the conclusion of our conversation, Bob and I will each offer our one thing, our today's antidote. That thing that we hope will help you figure out how to take your next step. Maybe it'll help us figure out how to take our next step. When we are stuck with challenges of pivoting or at a checkpoint, trying to figure out if we stay the course, all those things,
Judgment or criticism or
feedback, dealing with feedback, all of those wonderful things. So we hope that'll help you get unstuck and figure out how to take your next step along your own unique pathway to success. And of course, if you have a one thing that you would like to share, please feel free to put it in the comments, because we
I
know
think you
that
said that already.
I said that about thoughts and ideas during the conversation. This is about their one thing, their
okay.
that we welcome their antidote, because it might be just the one thing someone else out there is desperately seeking for.
Watch the replay. I think you said that already. I really do.
I always say it twice. Once about comments. Please feel free to share your comments, thoughts, and ideas in the feed.
No, now we need to move on. We're going to lose people going through this. Okay, so here we go, Tom. We're going to move on. You ready?
Sure.
So we like to start our program after we go through that lovely introduction and a little levity and a little, real life experience with celebrations. And because I like to point it out every couple of weeks or every couple of days why we do that. We do celebrations very simply, not because we have nothing better to say. We have plenty to say, but celebrations set the tone. They give us a chance to look at a step we've taken and recognize that it had value in the sense that we took it. And that's value enough. Just taking a step is valuable. Whether it worked the way you expected, whether it went horribly wrong, whether you are embarrassed by it, whatever, taking a step. So, Tom, would you like to go first today, or would you like me to? I'd love to. Thank you.
Go ahead.
So yesterday, we've been working for 6-8 weeks, I think, on some marketing behind the scenes. And it started today. And I should give Tom a lot of credit. He's done the yeoman's work on this. I've just sort of bopped in and out, but he's really run this. And it's a great advancement for what we're trying to accomplish about getting our message out. And it is live today. And I'm not judging the results. I'm just excited that it's out there. I truly am. And I'm trying with this. This is one of those times where I'm really going to try to not judge the results until we hit our checkpoint, which we haven't. You said it should be a week, but I really think we should put it off till that Friday.
I didn't say it should be a week. I offered that maybe we could do it.
Okay. I think we should go a little longer. I think that Friday would be more.
Are you woulda, shoulda, coulda things?
Probably. And Tom, what do you celebrate today?
I have two celebrations. Sorry, I'm breaking the rules because you changed the introduction, so I'm going to break the rules.
Okay.
Of course, I would agree with you celebrating the fact that we've launched an initiative.
I don't think you can agree with my celebration. You can share in it, but you can't agree on it. That's my choice. A celebration's an individual thing. Isn't agreeing on it judgment?
I don't think it's a judgment, it's feedback.
Okay. All right.
It's different. Now I've completely forgotten what I was going to say.
Well, good. Now jump in with the comment while you're doing
that. Here's what I'm going to say.
My sister Beth's with us this morning, and she says, "Good morning, Bob and Tom." And I like that she puts my name first because sometimes she doesn't. It really hurts me. But I'll be strong. She says, "Happy Valentine's Day. Enjoy your day." Happy Valentine's Day to you, Beth. Hope it's a great day.
Yes, I second that. So my two celebrations. One is that one of the things I committed to when we started this program you were talking about was I started to learn as we went through it that they send you a little bell, the bell that Bob rings occasionally. Occasionally,
when I remember.
One of the things that I kind of knew when this box arrived at my house that it was a bell. And they share the bell that when you have a new client, you ring the bell. And one of the celebrations that I decided upon was once we got our first client, I would open the box and as my celebration and ring the bell.
Our first client in this new initiative we've been
correct.
Under. Yeah.
And so that was so yesterday I was able to do that. And I think it was for me, rewarding that I could see the box on my desk, and it was helping drive me to do the things that I felt like were part of our plan, our pathway. Um,
Nice.
before I would celebrate and open the box. So that's one of my celebrations,
Okay.
is the
I like that
value
one.
of establishing how you'll celebrate once you complete an action.
And you had shared with me maybe 10 days ago that you were going to do that.
Yeah.
Yes. And Tom's not the quickest to have a celebration for things. Usually he's like, I haven't really thought about it yet. I need to come up with something. So this was interesting to me that this was something where you were pretty out in the front on how you're going to celebrate.
Thanks for the feedback. I appreciate that. The other thing I'm going to celebrate is I get to spend most of the day today with a client who had asked me to come in and do a audit of their development operation. It's a nonprofit organization, and it's a person I've known for a while. And so I'm excited about the opportunity to go spend the day and learn a little bit more, help them figure out their next pathway to achieve the goals and actions that the organization would desire.
Nice.
So those are my celebrations.
Okay. And we have another comment from Edward. Keep the comments coming. Love the comments. It's that time of the month, cat-friendly fussing. It's healthy to keep on your toes as we spar verbally.
Is that what we were doing? Cat-friendly
He's commenting about you and me sparring this morning.
Okay. We know. Well, whatever. Yes. Thank you, Edward, for that comment. It's always fun. I'm not sure it's sparring as much as it's, I don't know another word. I don't feel like we're punching each other. I think we're sharing something else. Although I like the idea. I
think I've come to today's show with a little different energy. So it's probably just response to my different energy.
Okay. Fair enough. I like that. I appreciate
when the bunker's on the move, it throws me.
Okay.
Yes,
Bob. So let's dive into our conversation.
Let us. I think that's a lovely idea.
Pathway pivoting and the challenges. You said in your intro, I actually was listening, that there's one big challenge. I'm sure you've been holding back because you're so interested in sharing it. So let's hear it.
When? You never know when. When you're on your pathway and it's time to make some sort of change, I never know when. And most of the time I feel like I did it too soon, or I did it too late, or I'm a knucklehead for not having realized 3 months ago that this thing was not the way I expected it. And getting that timing down is really difficult. That's why, and the answer to that, to me, really is the whole idea of the checkpoints and having established checkpoints. Now, that's probably tomorrow's program because we'll talk about the benefits of pivoting. But I think it's really hard to know exactly when. So this marketing initiative that you and I are doing, we'll look at the results in the next couple of days, and we will get results that could cause us to go, oh, this was the greatest thing we've ever done, or this was an absolute travesty of our time and effort. What were we thinking? Oh, hey, that'll go through my head. One of those or both will go through my head, guaranteed. And by the way, the word travesty is a word that usually is in my head in these situations, just so you know. And so having the established checkpoint and saying we're not going to really evaluate this in any serious way until we hit that checkpoint is really the way to go against that. The emotional response of, oh, I made a bad decision. Oh, I made a great decision. And I think we're conditioned at a very early age. I was thinking about this as little kids. We're conditioned that you do something and you get a reward. You do something, you get a reward. Do something, you get a reward. When you're 2 or 3 years old and you do something, your parents are like, oh, he's so cute. And the grandmother or grandfather usually gives them a candy. And we start to get that immediate gratification thing. And I think part of this whole pivoting thing is everything's not immediate. And when you're creating this pathway, it's not going to happen today or tomorrow. This marketing thing that you and I have been doing for the last 2 months, it's 2 months with this approach. We've been doing this kind of marketing in fits and starts for 2 years. And I think we had a clear pathway 2 years ago in terms of what the outcome was that we were looking for. The goal was clear to me. I think it was clear to you too, but we didn't figure out the pathway that was going to work. And I think that's part of this pivoting. We pivoted a couple of times. One really big pivot a number of times was, yeah, okay, that didn't work. And we'd stop. And I think that's one of the things, right? You just, a pivot is, never mind, I'm not going to do this. It's too hard. Or I thought that my first cold call was going to lead to a sale. It didn't. That's it. Can't cold call anymore. Or I can remember when I worked in newspapers years ago, like print newspapers. I know they were a thing. Who knew? Look in any big museum. But we had advertisements, and you put an ad in the paper, and the advertisers would always call after the ad appeared the first time. The ad ran on Wednesday. We haven't gotten one customer from it. It's like it's going to take months for them to see that ad 5, 7, 10, 12 times. And then if they got really feisty, we'd be like, well, put a coupon in the paper. Then you can at least track it, because if someone brings a coupon in, you know where the coupon was. And they put the coupon in the paper in their ad. And then the day the ad came out, no one came in with the coupon. Like, no one's even read the paper yet. The paper came out at 6 a.m. You want the ad to be, it just doesn't work that way. And I had that discussion with people many, many times in that form, because they were investing money and time. They needed, in many cases, they wanted a result. They needed the result. They needed more people to come into their store. And so they ran these ads in a very desperate sense. And I think that's something about this whole pathway thing, that sometimes we get very desperate. And I think that's another challenge with this pivoting is when you're desperate, when you're running out of money, when you're running out of patients, when you're running out of customers, when you have inventory that's stacking up, when you look at your calendar and you have a lot of open times and you were really hoping to fill them because that means you're generating the opportunities to make revenue. I think it's really easy at that point to just pivot, because it's just, I can't do this anymore. And sometimes I think, for me at least, pivoting is just a response. Like, I got to do something. It's not working. I've got to change it. I think pivoting is more dramatic than course adjusting. And I think there are times that I've pivoted, Ned. I think of the challenges. Another one is you pivot when a course adjustment would be probably more likely to help you get where you want to go. I love to watch your face when you're like, I don't even know what to do with all that. You just like vomited to me every word about pivoting you could think about in real time. And I did.
Well, I look at it a little bit differently, I think.
Okay.
I think a little bit, as you were going through some of that, it was, to me, it was more impactful than just pivoting. It was almost what I think we're going to talk about next week. And I forget the exact title, but it's almost like giving up.
Okay.
Like, I don't see pivoting as giving up. I see pivoting at, it's interesting. As you were talking about that, I was like, the fascinating thing about pivoting is it means that one point, 1 foot stays where it is.
If you're talking about basketball, yes.
Well, think about anything. If you pivot a pen, right? If you take a pen
Right.
and you're going to pivot it, the 1 point stays where it is and the other part shifts.
Okay, you're right.
So you still sort of keep your foot on the pathway. You haven't given up on the pathway. You just said there might be something else over there that I want to do. Like when I pivot my head, my body stays forward. It's just my head that turns.
Right.
So I think that, so that act of staying, a part of you staying still, staying on the journey, and we're just going to look in another direction, or we're going to move in another direction that still is taking us toward the same pathway. That's how I see pivoting. I see pivoting as, hey, you know what? We still are taking steps towards our ultimate goal. And yeah, the step may be in a slightly different direction, or with a different idea, concept, thought action.
Okay.
It goes back to yesterday. It's like, okay, hey, email isn't working, so let's try social media. You're still, the end goal is still, how do we communicate most effectively with people, and that's going to have an impact on them. It's not like we're giving up trying to reach an audience that way. We're going in a completely different path. Like that, trying to communicate to the public does not work. We need to do something else. That to me was a little bit of where I thought what you were sharing in my mind, what was real for me was that what you were sharing there was more intensive than a pivot. And
I think that's part of the challenge, and the challenge, honestly, is I think sometimes you want to do something more dramatic. When you want something to work and it's not working, you don't want to make incremental changes.
Why?
Because it doesn't feel like you're doing enough.
Ooh, feelings. What causes that?
What causes feelings? Emotion.
So you're letting an emotional reaction dictate your pathway rather than learning from your pathway and in a non-emotional state say, okay, what are we going to do next? I think that's part of that. To me, again, all of these are options off of a checkpoint. We've reached a checkpoint. We've stopped. We haven't judged. We're starting to understand and learn from the actions that we had taken up to then. So now what's our next course? Is it to stay the course? Do we make a slight adjustment? Do we pivot? Or again, I can't remember what the next week is, but it's like completely changing course.
Wholesale change, right?
Yeah. And I think that those are like the things that we go through, and all of them done at a time when you've sort of taken some emotion out of it, I think helps us see a little clearer of what we may do. And it goes back to your question of when. When to pivot to me is it would be at a checkpoint, is a time when we would consider pivoting. And we're not going to pivot until then.
Okay.
And at that point, we're going to pivot. I think the biggest challenge around pivoting is how much you do. To going back to the basketball analogy, or even if you were driving, but I'll stick with basketball for the moment. Have you ever seen the person who like comes down and they stop and now they start pivoting and they just pivot all over the place?
Right.
Not with any intention, not with any sort of just like, oh my God, I'm starting to get surrounded. I don't know what to do.
I'm required to turn all the way around, and yeah.
Correct. Before you know it, you're like, you don't
Caught.
know what's happened, and likely your foot is picked up and you've now traveled and you're turning the ball over. I think the same. Again, if we are driving our car on our journey and we just keep looking at all the sights all over the place, there's a pretty good chance an obstacle is going to whack us.
Right.
We're not going to see it.
Sure.
The car in front of us decides to stop while we're out looking around so much that we don't see what's right in front of us. And I think sometimes that's to me, one of the biggest challenges of how much do we pivot or to see all of the different things rather than make one little pivot that allows us to just make a different decision. I think what that also leaves a challenge is, it's a double-edged sword. If you only take one pivot, if I'm in basketball and all I do is pivot to my right,
every time you get defended on the right.
Well, anytime, if you do it anytime, I miss what's on the left. And maybe the left was an option that might have been, provided different results. It's that fear of missing out as well. Okay, if I come down and I've got to pivot, I'm going to pivot. Just as I pivot and look this way, my teammate is breaking open on the left and I miss them for an easy layup. And there's nothing over here. So I think that's there's the double-edged sword of pivoting too much and you don't see what's in front of you, or only pivoting once and you miss an opportunity that you.
I've got a comment around that, Tom. Jack's with us this morning, and Jack says we have to control our frustration when something appears not to be working. we need to step back and either pivot within the course or consider a new course?
Sure. And I think that, to me, thank you, Jack, for sharing that. And I like this because I think it helps with the point is, he uses the word control our frustration and emotion appears not to be working. So like that's a judgment on where it is, not a measurement of what has happened. And I think, again, this goes back to how do we set up these checkpoints that allow us to make decisions based on what we have learned. And again, if you stick with our 3 questions, what went well, what didn't go as planned, and what might I do different, not working is not in that equation. So it's all working. It's just working differently than maybe you expected or what you thought. It's just the results which you can't control.
Do you have your one thing?
I do. Go ahead.
No, I'm going to let you go first. I'm curious. I think it may be the same. So go ahead. I think you'll do it more articulately.
Interesting. So when I think of the biggest challenge when pivoting is keeping that foot still. Is that in all of your, you've made this decision or you've just that you need to look around for another action. You still like the course, you think, and while you're looking all around, all these shiny objects show up and appear that they might be better. And in doing so, there's a good opportunity that we get so enamored with one of the ways we pivot that we drag our pivot foot and travel.
Okay. I like that a lot. I'm going to bring some more comments in. We got great comments today. Love it. Edward says, take a step back and a break from the distraction. Wise. I like that. And Jack jumps in and says, I'm seeing the value of checkpoints and need to learn how to set them up for key initiatives.
Certainly. I mean, it's an interesting, I just think it allows us to try. We are never going to take emotion out of things completely. Although, I would ask
and
you.
If there was an emotion, why would you do it, right? I mean, it is nice
Absolutely.
to accomplish something and feel good about, hey, I did this thing.
Yes.
I think, again, I made someone dinner last night and just totally made it up. And it was just nice. I was really excited that I made a really nice dinner that was just me. And the emotion of that was nice, different than I followed a recipe, right?
Sure.
Because I followed my own unique pathway to make salmon.
Here's the caution, right?
What's that?
Now you think you're like the greatest chef ever and you can just make things up all the time without ever looking at a recipe and getting the results that you expect.
No and no, but I see what you're saying.
Well, that's the challenge, right? Now, what would have happened had it not gone as planned? Would you have ever tried it again?
I think I would have, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well,
after beating myself up for at least 3 to 4 weeks. Perhaps longer.
And I think that's the challenge, right? Is that, we have these opportunities and when emotion gets in the way, it's really hard. And again, as you said, we should celebrate. Celebrating is an emotion. We recognize that. It's not getting caught in the celebration or in the frustration. It's just figuring out to be like, okay, great, I celebrated. Now, what do I need to do next? Knowing that everything else after this could be completely different.
Right. And I think for me, the one thing is really the whole idea of the emotion and trying to control the emotion, as Jack said. I like that phrase. I know it's probably not a phrase you like, Tom, but just managing that emotion in the sense that, I know I'm prone to react to things a certain way, and knowing that, tempering things with that. Like this whole thing you and I are doing, this marketing thing. It's like, I know I want to look at those results. It's been live for an hour and 35 minutes. I want to look at the results.
Oh, yeah. I know.
And I don't think I have access to them, which is really wise.
Might be the one step that is really impactful.
But that's the thing, right? In knowing that challenge that I face, building a system so that I can't do the things that I'm prone to do because they could cause it to go haywire.
And I think Ed agrees with you. And I would say the same. First thing is to recognize your pattern of emotional response. I would 100% agree. You know, it's one of the things that I like to do when I'm working with people on building their pathway. We did this with Bob. Is we said, okay, what are the obstacles that could get in your way? And, you know, judgment, frustration, all these emotions came up. And the key thing I believe is, as you mentioned, Ed, is not only understanding the pattern, but figuring out how you interrupt the pattern so that you can keep moving forward and know what is next rather than getting stuck. We talked a little bit about that last week. When Bob was talking about songs, that if you're struggling and you put on a song and it changes your approach and you can look at things differently. So I would agree. I mean, I think emotion plays such a role in everything that we do, and trying to find, you know, again, it goes back to the quote from, I think not the road less traveled, If, you know, sort of it's a poem called If by, I can't remember who.
Will you be putting that in the Ring of Renegades Facebook group so we can all see it? Okay, good. So if you're not part of the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, folks, I don't know why that was. If you are not part of the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, folks, if you want to see that poem, Tom's going to put it in there. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff. Like I did a video about ways to change your feelings.
Maybe I'll do a video about it. I think that might be effective and a good.
Okay.
And the basic premise is that if you can keep your head around you when all is losing theirs, and there's and treat celebration. I forget, like celebration and frustration, and treat those two imposters the same.
Okay. This is new to me. I'm looking forward to that. I'll be in that Facebook group all day, clicking refresh until I see that video. You know,
remember, I have to spend most of the day in Frederick, so I've got to figure out when I'm going to do it.
Come on, end this program and do it. You can whip out a video in 4 minutes.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for being with us, and especially thanks everyone, Edward, Jack, Beth, for sharing your thoughts and ideas, and anyone else who chooses to share them. If you're listening to the podcast, please share. You can join us in Facebook or on Instagram, or join us in the Ring of Renegades, as Bob said. You can share your thoughts and ideas there. We look forward to seeing you inside our Ring of Renegades. If not, we'll see you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Eastern time, for our next episode of Today's Antidote. Have a great day, everyone.
Hey, first of all, happy Valentine's Day to everyone. Enjoy the day. And second, embrace the renegading you. It's worth it, especially on Valentine's Day. Be a renegade.
It would be interesting to know, like, okay, what is your renegade thing today on Valentine's Day? Where people are like, this is a good one to see, like, do I go and do something completely different, or do I stick with the tried and true? Interesting. All right, everybody. Go out and make it a great day. We'll see you soon. Thanks for listening to Today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.